The stars were dying, and Commander Veltar knew it was his fault. He stood on the bridge of Haven's Edge, watching the last Coalition fleet limp back from another failed battle. Half the ships were gone. The other half looked like they might fall apart at any moment. "Sir, we're getting reports from the outer colonies," said his communications officer, a young Kelthari with trembling hands. "The Devourers have reached the Omega sector. They're eating everything." Veltar closed his 4 eyes. The Devourers were machines, but they weren't just any machines. They were hungry things that turned planets into metal and flesh into fuel. They had come from the dark spaces between galaxies, and they had been unstoppable for 3 years now. "How many worlds?" he asked. 17 in the last week, sir. No survivors." The bridge fell silent. 17 worlds meant billions of lives. Families, children, artists, dreamers, all gone. Fed to the endless hunger of the Devourers, Veltar had commanded the Coalition forces for 2 years. He had watched 12 different species try to fight together. The proud Veltans with their honor codes. The wise Kelthari with their ancient knowledge. The fierce Bralics with their warrior traditions. All of them had tried their best. All of them had failed. The Devourers learned too fast. Every time the Coalition found a new weapon, the machines adapted. Every time they discovered a weakness, the Devourers fixed it. It was like fighting an enemy that grew stronger with each battle. "Sir," called out Navigator Thexal from her station. "We're getting a priority message from Scout Fleet 7. They're in the Sol System." Veltar's ears perked up. Sol System was far on the edge of Coalition space. What were Scouts doing there? "Put it through," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life. Scout Captain Morden appeared, his usually neat uniform torn and dirty. Behind him, Veltar could see the cramped bridge of a scout ship. "Commander Veltar," Morden said, his voice shaking with excitement. "You need to hear this. We found something. Someone." "Speak plainly, Captain." "The Devourers sent a full invasion fleet to a system called Sol. 300 ships, sir? We went to watch them feed, to learn their patterns. But something happened. Something impossible." Veltar leaned forward. "What happened?" "They were stopped, sir. The Devourers were stopped cold. There's a species here called humans. They live on a blue planet called Earth, and they fought back." The bridge fell silent again. This was different from the usual silence of defeat. This was the silence of hope, dangerous and fragile. "How many ships did these humans lose?" Veltar asked. "That's just it, sir. They didn't lose any ships. They destroyed the entire Devourer fleet. All 300 ships. We watched them do it." Veltar felt his heart skip. 300 Devourer ships would have been enough to destroy the Coalition's entire remaining fleet. These humans had destroyed them all? "Are you certain?" he asked. "Yes, sir. We recorded everything. The humans use strange tactics. They don't fight like us. They don't follow the normal rules of war. They're aggressive, creative. They turn the Devourer's own weapons against them." Veltar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at the screen with wide eyes. Hope was a dangerous thing for a dying species, but it was all they had left. "How far is this Sol System?" he asked. "But Commander, there's something else. The humans detected our ships. They want to meet with us." Veltar made his decision. It was probably the wrong decision. It was certainly a desperate one. But desperate times called for desperate measures. "Prepare the diplomatic vessel Harmony," he ordered. "Full crew, emergency supplies. We're going to meet these humans." "Sir," said his tactical officer, "what if this is a trap? What if the humans are working with the Devourers?" Veltar looked out at the stars. How many Coalition worlds were left? 50. 30. The Devourers would find them all eventually. They had nothing left to lose. "It will die trying something new, instead of dying the same old way," he said. "At least it will be interesting." The crew began preparing for the journey. Veltar watched them work, and felt something he hadn't felt in months. Not quite hope, but something close to it. Maybe these humans would be just another disappointment. Maybe they would be dead by the time the Coalition arrived. But maybe, just maybe, they would be something else entirely. Something the Devourers had never faced before. Something that could teach a dying Alliance how to fight back. The stars were still dying. But for the first time in 3 years, Commander Veltar thought they might not all die together. The diplomatic vessel Harmony dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. And Commander Veltar immediately knew something was wrong. The sensors showed dozens of defensive platforms surrounding the system like a metal web. Energy signatures blazed from every direction. This wasn't the setup of a dying civilization. "Sir," whispered Navigator Thaxal, "these readings can't be right. They have more firepower here than we have in our entire remaining fleet." Veltar stared at the tactical display. Humans had built a fortress around their home system. Massive battle stations floated in the darkness. Patrol ships moved in perfect formations. It looked like they were expecting a war. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Kethra. "It's from the humans. Put it through." The main screen flickered, and Veltar saw his first human. The creature looked strange but not unpleasant. It had smooth skin, dark hair, and only 2 eyes. It wore a crisp military uniform with symbols that meant nothing to Veltar. "This is Admiral Lee Jun of the Terran Space Command," the human said in perfectly clear Coalition standard. "Welcome to Sol System. We've been expecting you." Veltar blinked his 4 eyes in surprise. The humans had learned their language. "I am Commander Veltar of the Coalition vessel Harmony. We come seeking diplomatic contact." Admiral Lee Jun nodded. "We know who you are. We've been watching the war. Your people are in trouble." The human's directness caught Veltar off guard. Most species spent hours on formal greetings and polite conversation. This Admiral Lee Jun got straight to the point. "Yes," Veltar admitted. "We are dying. The Devourers are consuming our worlds. We heard that you stopped them here." "We did more than stop them," Lee Jun said. "We destroyed them. All of them. Would you like to see?" Before Veltar could answer, the human transmitted a data package. The bridge crew gathered around the tactical display as the recording played. They watched 300 Devourer ships enter the Sol system. They watched the machines spread out to begin their feeding process. Then they watched the humans attack. It was unlike any battle Veltar had ever seen. The humans didn't form neat battle lines or follow traditional tactics. They swarmed the Devourers from all directions. They used weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. They turned captured Devourer ships against their own fleet. "How?" Veltar asked when the recording ended. "We fight differently than you do," Lee Jun said. "We don't fight to preserve honor or follow ancient codes. We fight to win. It's all that matters." The Admiral's words made Veltar uncomfortable. The Coalition had always fought with dignity and respect for their enemies. It was what separated them from monsters. "But surely you have rules of war?" Veltar asked. Lee Jun smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Against the Devourers? No rules. They want to eat everything we've ever built, and everyone we've ever loved. So we'll use every trick, every weapon, every dirty tactic we can think of to stop them." Admiral interrupted another voice. A human female stepped into view. She was smaller than Lee Jun, but carried herself with the same confidence. "I'm Colonel Park Hanna, Earth Defense Corps. We've been monitoring Devourer communications since they arrived. We know they're heading for your core worlds." Altara's heart sank. "How long do we have?" 2 weeks, Park Hanna said. "Maybe 3, if you abandon the outer colonies." "Can't abandon them," Veltar said quickly. "Those are our people, and you'll all die together," Lee Jun said simply. "Unless you let us help." The bridge fell silent. Veltar looked around at his crew. They were all staring at the humans with a mixture of hope and fear. "What kind of help?" Veltar asked. "Military alliance," Park Hanna said. "We send our fleets to fight alongside yours. We share our tactics and weapons. We teach you how to fight. Dirty. And what do you want in return?" Lee Jun and Park Hanna exchanged glances. The Admiral spoke first. "Nothing," he said. "We're going to fight the Devourers anyway. They're a threat to all organic life. Better to fight them with allies than alone." Veltar couldn't believe it. "You would risk your people for strangers." "We're not strangers," Park Hanna said. "We're neighbors, and neighbors help each other." The human concept seemed simple, but it went against everything Veltar knew about galactic politics. Species fought for resources, territory, and advantage. They didn't help each other for free. "There's one thing," Lee Jun added. "We do things our way. When we fight to win. No holding back. No mercy for the Devourers. Can you accept?" that Beltar thought about his dying worlds, about the billions of coalition citizens who would be consumed in the coming weeks, about the children who would never grow up, and the artists who would never create again. Yes, he said. We can accept that, good Li Jun said. Then let's go save your people. The screen went dark, and Veltar sat in his command chair, trying to process what had just happened. The humans were nothing like he had expected. They were direct, aggressive, and completely without fear. Maybe that was exactly what the coalition needed. The first joint battle happened at Kepler Prime, a beautiful garden world with crystal cities and floating farms. The Devourers had already started their feeding process when the combined human coalition fleet arrived. Veltar watched from the bridge of his flagship as 500 enemy ships turned their hungry attention to the rescue force. Coalition vessels, form defensive line Alpha, Veltar ordered. Following the battle plans they had used for 3 years, protect the heavy cruisers and advance in formation. Active, came Admiral Li Jun's voice over the comm. Human vessels scatter pattern Delta. Hit them from all sides. Veltar watched in horror as the human ships broke formation and spread out like seeds in the wind. This was madness. They were abandoning all tactical sense. Admiral Li Jun, you're breaking formation, he called out. The Devourers will pick you off one by one. That's the idea, came the reply. Trust us. The Devourers moved to intercept the scattered human ships, just as Veltar had predicted. But something strange happened. Instead of running away, the human ships turned and attacked. Not with the careful, measured strikes the Coalition used, but with wild, desperate fury. Captain Parkana's destroyer, the Soulfire, dove straight into a group of Devourer ships. Instead of using its main weapons, it launched something Veltar had never seen before: boarding pods. What are they doing? Asked Navigator Thexal. They're boarding the enemy ships, Veltar said in disbelief. While they're still fighting? The boarding pods smashed into the Devourer hulls and human soldiers poured out. Veltar watched his tactical display as the enemy ships began to flicker and change. The humans were taking control of them from the inside. Soulfire to all ships. Parkana's voice crackled over the comm. We've got control of 3 Devourer vessels, turning their weapons on their own fleet. Within minutes, the captured ships opened fire on their former allies. The Devourers, built to adapt to external threats, didn't know how to handle betrayal from within their own ranks. Coalition fleet, stop sitting there and help us, Li Jun ordered. Attack the confused ones. Veltar shook himself out of his amazement. All ships target the Devourers that are turning away from the captured vessels. The battle became a chaotic mess. Human ships darted in and out of the enemy formation like angry hornets. They used weapons that bent space and time. They launched virus programs that made Devourer ships attack each other. They even rammed damaged ships into healthy ones, sacrificing themselves to take down multiple enemies. This is insane, muttered Tactical Officer Morex. They fight like they've lost their minds. No, Veltar said, watching a human cruiser use its own explosion to destroy 5 Devourer ships. They fight like they have nothing to lose. The battle that should have taken hours was over in 40 minutes. The Devourers, built to fight logical, predictable enemies, couldn't adapt fast enough to human chaos. The few survivors fled into hyperspace, leaving behind their half-consumed meal. Coalition vessels form up for planetary rescue operations, Veltar ordered. Negative, Parkana's voice cut in. Soulfire to all ships. We're going after the retreating Devourers. Captain, they're retreating. The battle is won. The battle is won when every last one of them is dead, Parkana replied. They know where this world is now. They'll be back with more ships, unless we stop them. Veltar watched as half the human fleet chased the fleeing Devourers into hyperspace. This was completely against Coalition military doctrine. You didn't chase a retreating enemy into unknown space. You celebrated your victory and prepared for the next attack. Sir, Communications Officer Kethra called out. We're getting reports from the planet. The humans are landing troops already. But we haven't finished scanning for threats. Humans say they don't have time to scan. They're going down now. Veltar switched his screen to the planetary surface. Human soldiers were dropping from their ships in small pods, landing all over the crystal cities. They moved through the damaged areas like they had been born for this work. Look at this, Thexal said, pointing to her screen. They're using Devourer body parts to repair the damaged city shields. It was true. The humans were pulling apart the broken enemy machines and rebuilding them into defensive systems. They worked with a speed and efficiency that amazed Veltar. Where Coalition engineers would spend days planning and testing, the humans just started building. Coalition engineering teams to the surface, Veltar ordered. Assist the humans with repairs. Sir, his chief engineer reported an hour later. The humans are teaching us things we never thought possible. They're showing us how to turn Devourer. Technology against itself. What do you mean? They're taking the feeding systems and reversing them. Instead of consuming matter, they're creating it. They're literally growing new crystal towers from the metal remains of dead Devourers. Veltar stared at the reports flowing in. The humans weren't just fighting the Devourers. They were learning from them. Taking their strengths and turning them into weaknesses. It was brilliant and terrifying at the same time. Captain Park Hanna to all Coalition vessels. The cum crackled. We caught the retreating Devourers. All enemy ships destroyed, no survivors. All of them, Veltar asked. Every last one. They won't be reporting back to their main fleet about our new tactics. Veltar sat back in his command chair. In one battle, the humans had shown him more new ideas than he had learned in 2 years of war. They fought without honor, without mercy, and without fear. And they won. The war changed after Kepler Prime. Instead of running from the Devourers, the combined fleet began hunting them. Commander Kim Tae led the ground forces, while Lieutenant Colonel Choi Yuna coordinated the space battles. They moved from system to system, like a fire burning through the darkness. Freeing every world they could find, Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display. They had just liberated their 15th world in 2 months. The humans called it island hopping, attacking one Devourer position after another, never giving the machines time to regroup. Sir, called Navigator the Sol. We're approaching the Bralix home system. Long-range sensors show heavy Devourer presence. The Bralix were the Coalition's strongest warriors. Their world had fallen 6 months ago, and everyone assumed the entire species was dead. But the humans had different ideas. Never assume, Admiral Lee Jun had said. The Devourers like to keep some prey alive for breeding programs. There might be survivors. Coalition vessels. Prepare for standard liberation. Assault, Veltar ordered. Negative, came Lieutenant Colonel Choi Yuna's voice from the human carrier. Busan Thunder. We're trying something new today, Veltar sighed. The humans were always trying something new. Out. What is it this time? We're going to make the Devourers think we're retreating, draw them away from the planet, then we hit them from behind. That's cowardly, said Tactical Officer Morex. Warriors don't run from battle. Dead warriors don't save anyone, Choi Yuna replied. Kim Tae, are your ground teams ready? Ready, came the reply from the planet's surface. Commander Kim Tae had somehow landed troops on the Bralix homeworld without anyone noticing. Veltar still didn't understand how humans move so quietly. The battle began with the Coalition fleet, charging toward the Devourer positions. Then, just as the enemy ships moved to intercept, the human vessels turned and fled. The Devourers, programmed to destroy all organic life, followed them into deep space. Now, Choi Yuna ordered, the human ships that had been retreating suddenly turned around and attacked. At the same time, hidden human vessels dropped out of hyperspace behind the Devourer fleet. The machines found themselves trapped between two forces unable to adapt quickly enough. But the real surprise came from the planet itself. Kim Tae's ground forces had found the Devourer control centers and turned them against their own fleet. The planet's defense systems, built from consumed Bralix technology, opened fire on the ships in orbit. Impossible, breathed Morex. It turned the planet into a weapon. Not just any weapon, Veltar said, watching the tactical display. They turned it into a Devourer killer. The battle was over in 20 minutes. The Devourers, caught between 3 different attacks couldn't coordinate their defense. Their ships fell one by one, consumed by their own adapted technology. Kimte to all ships, came the report from the surface. We found them, the Bralix survivors. 3 million of them, hidden in underground cities. Veltar felt his heart's jump. 3 million Bralix warriors, alive and ready to fight. There's more, Kimte continued. The Devourers have been using them as test subjects. They've been trying to figure out how to consume warrior cultures without losing their fighting spirit. What does that mean? Veltar asked. It means we just captured a Devourer research facility, Admiral Li Jun said, excitement clear in his voice, with all their data on how to fight us. The liberation of the Bralix homeworld was just the beginning. The rescued warriors brought new fury to the fight. They had watched their world burn and their people die. Now they wanted revenge. Human tactics work, declared Bralix war leader Thakmer as his ship joined the fleet. New ways of fighting. The combined force grew stronger with each victory. Rescued Veltans brought their knowledge of Devourer technology. Freed Kelthari shared their ancient wisdom about machine intelligence. Every species added something new to the fight, but it was the humans who held everything together. They taught the coalition warriors to think like predators instead of prey. They showed them how to use fear as a weapon and chaos as a tool. Watch this, Commander Kimte said during a briefing. He showed a recording of their latest battle. The Devourers are starting to hesitate before attacking. They're afraid of us. Machines can't feel fear, protested a Veltan officer. Ken Lieutenant Colonel Choi Yuna said, they're learning machines. And they've learned that fighting us means dying. The war became a blazing trail across the galaxy. The combined fleet moved from system to system, leaving freed worlds and burning Devourer wrecks behind them. They fought in asteroid fields and nebulae, in the rings of gas giants and the ruins of dead stars. With each battle, the humans taught the coalition something new. How to fight dirty. How to use the enemy's strength against them. How to turn despair into rage and rage into victory. The Devourers are retreating toward their core worlds, reported Scout Captain Morden. They're calling back all their scattered. Fleet's good, Admiral Li Jun said. Let them gather in one place. It'll make it easier to finish them all at once. Veltar looked at the star charts. The Devourer core worlds were heavily defended. The enemy would have thousands of ships waiting for them. Are you sure about this? He asked. We'll be outnumbered 10 to 1. We've been outnumbered since the war started, Kimte replied. It hasn't stopped us yet. The fleet turned toward the galaxy's dark heart, where the final battle waited. The Devourer core worlds hung in space like a metal cancer. Thousands of ships surrounding 3 dead planets stripped of all life. Veltar stared at the tactical display and felt his courage falter. The enemy had called back every surviving ship from across the galaxy. Final count, reported Navigator Thexal. 8,000 Devourer vessels. We have 800. 10. 2. 1, muttered Tactical Officer Morex. We're going to die here. Good, said Admiral Li Jun from the human flagship Soul Victory. That means they think they only need 10 ships to kill each of us. They're wrong. Veltar watched the human commander on the main screen. Li Jun looked calm, almost happy. The other human officers around him were smiling and joking with each other. They acted like they were going to a celebration instead of their deaths. Admiral Veltar said carefully, perhaps we should consider a strategic retreat, find a better position to fight from. No, Li Jun replied. We end this here, today. The odds don't matter, interrupted Dr. Han Su, the chief human scientist. We've been studying the Devourers for months. We know their weakness now. What weakness? Asked Bralix, war leader Thakmer. They adapt to everything we throw at them. That's exactly their weakness, Dr. Han Su said. They're too good at adapting. They've built their entire society around consuming and learning. So we're going to give them something they can't consume. What's that? Veltar asked. Themselves, said Commander Kimte. We're going to make them eat their own fleet. The plan was insane. The humans had built special virus programs that would turn the Devourers' adaptation systems against them. Instead of learning from their enemies, the machines would start learning from each other. They would adapt and change until they forgot what they were supposed to be doing. It's like a disease, Dr. Hansu explained. But instead of killing them, it makes them confused. They'll think every ship around them is food to be consumed. And if it doesn't work, Veltar asked, then we fight them the old-fashioned way, Lieutenant Colonel Choi Yuna said, until every last one of us is dead. The battle began with the Coalition fleet charging straight at the Devourer core. No fancy tactics, no clever tricks, just 800 ships flying directly at 8,000 enemies. They're taking the bait, reported Communications Officer Kethra. The entire Devourer fleet is moving to intercept. Good, Admiral Lee Jun said. Hansu, launch the virus. The human scientist activated his weapon. It looked like nothing, more than a small data burst barely visible on the sensors. But Veltar knew it carried the hopes of every organic species in the galaxy. At first, nothing happened. The Devourers continued their advance, their formation perfect and deadly. Then slowly, things began to change. Sir, Dexel called out, the enemy ships are starting to move differently. They're turning on each other, Veltar watched. In amazement, as the Devourer fleet began to tear itself apart, ships that had fought together for years suddenly saw their allies as enemies. The virus spread through their communication networks, turning their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. It's working, breathed Morex. They're consuming each other. But the virus wasn't perfect. About half the Devourer fleet remained unaffected, and 4,000 ships were still more than enough to destroy the Coalition forces. All ships, attack formation, Admiral Lee Jun ordered. Remember what we taught you. Fight like you have nothing left to lose. It's the final battle. Was unlike anything Veltar had ever seen. Coalition ships dove into the enemy formation without regard for their own safety. Bralek's warriors rammed their vessels into Devourer hulls. Veltan cruisers used their own explosions to take down multiple enemies. Kelthari fighters sacrificed themselves to protect the larger ships. But it was the humans who showed everyone what it truly meant to fight without limits. Commander Kim Tae's ground forces somehow teleported directly onto enemy ships, fighting hand-to-hand with mechanical horrors. Lieutenant Colonel Choi Yuna used her carrier as a battering ram, smashing through enemy lines. Sole victory to all. Ships, Admiral Lee Jun's voice crackled over the comm. We're going to ram the core facility. All vessels follow us in. Admiral, that's suicide, Veltar called out. Maybe, Lee Jun replied. But if we take out their central command, the remaining ships will stop coordinating. They'll be easier to pick off. Veltar watched as the human flagship, already damaged and burning, accelerated toward the largest Devourer structure. Other human ships followed, creating a spearhead of destruction. All Coalition vessels, Veltar ordered, follow the humans. If they can be that brave, so can we. The combined fleet smashed into the Devourer core like a hammer. Ships exploded and died, but they kept moving forward. The enemy's perfect coordination began to break down as their command structure collapsed. The virus is spreading faster, Dr. Hansu reported from his damaged ship. The destruction is accelerating their adaptation cycles. They're consuming themselves faster than they can process what's happening. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it was over, the space around the core worlds was filled with debris from both fleets. But the Devourers were gone. All of them. The last ship had consumed itself in confusion, leaving only twisted metal and silence. Is it over, Veltar asked.
It's over,
Admiral Lee Jun confirmed. The galaxy is safe. Veltar looked around his damaged bridge. Half his crew was dead, and his ship was barely holding together. But they had won. The impossible had happened. The humans had taught them how to fight for their future instead of just surviving their present. And that had made all the difference.